Marcos Foundation Library and to this beautiful space overlooking Fifth Avenue, where we are gathered tonight for the Get Lit Book Club. My name is Morgan Boyle, and I'm the manager of the Adult Cultural Programming here at the New York Public Library. The Get Lit Book Club is the product of a partnership with WNYC that started in 2020 and has continued since then as a wonderful opportunity for New Yorkers to come together and share their love of reading. While you're all here, I hope you'll get a library card, check out a few books, or learn more about the programs happening throughout the building. We'd love to see you again. And don't forget to stop by the check-in desk after the program, fill out a short audience survey, and get a free prize. Everybody loves free swag. For those watching virtually, welcome, and we hope that you have an opportunity to visit us in person soon. I invite you all to check out everything NYPL offers, including our recently announced Best Books of 2025. NYPL's expert staff have put together lists for kids, teens, and adults that cover a wide range of genres, including romance, comics, horror, memoir, history, and much more. Plus, 26 of our best books, including best-selling and award-winning titles, are available for instant ebook access. Library card holders can download now with no wait times and start reading. You can learn more at nypl.org/bestbooks. Now, let's start the show. Tonight, we welcome author Susan Choi, who will be discussing her newest novel, Flashlight, a novel tracing a father's disappearance across time, nations, and memory. We're also thrilled to have with us Sarah Kinsley, who will share a special performance. We're grateful to Allison Stewart and the WNYC team for being such wonderful partners on the book club this year. Take it away, Allison.
Thanks, everybody, for coming out on such a cold night. We're really glad to see you. Hello to everybody at home in your warm couches, being all that. A bit of housekeeping. First of all, those mics over there are official radio mics. They catch what you are putting out. So let our audience know that you're here. You can laugh, you can cry. So when we're on the radio, they know we're in a room full of people. Our second thing is silence your cell phones. Don't put them away. Take pictures. Tag us and the library on Instagram, and we will repost everything. And then about 25 minutes in, we're going to come to the audience with questions. We love questions. We'll do about 10 to 15 minutes of questions. You know what I'm talking about. This is not only a book club, we call it a book celebration, and all book celebrations have great music. We are so lucky to have Sarah Kinsley join us. She's just off of tour. She stopped by. She's going to come and she's going to perform a song you haven't heard before. And we want you to stick around till the end of the night. It should take about an hour, should be the program, because Susan Choi will be signing books in the lobby. So let's get this started. National Book Award-winning author Susan Choi is the author of Flashlight, which was shortlisted for the Booker Prize, longlisted for the National Book Award. Thanks to our great partners here at the NYPL, 5,269 of you were able to check out a copy to read along with us. Susan, come on up. That's a lot of people.
It is a lot of people. Thank you.
So your book is so complex. It travels time, it travels the world, it travels perspectives between the characters, but then it's also really simple. It's a case of people learning how to deal with their emotions. So when people come to you and say, so what's Flashlight about? What do you say?
Ooh, that's like the hardest kind of question to answer, making a big thing small. I think I usually start by saying that it's about a family. Mm-hmm. And they're a small family, but larger than they realized. So the book starts out with this family of three, mom, dad, and daughter, but there's actually somebody else, as you've maybe learned if you've read it. And I think it's a family story at its heart for me.
You said this book was partially inspired by a trip you took to Japan as a child. What was it about that trip that you wanted to capture?
I think it was a quality that if I hadn't also found like some plot-y stuff would not have been that interesting to read about. It was a quality or an experience for me of just total unfamiliarity. I was 9 when me and my mom and dad went to Japan. The things that happen in the book did not happen to us, which is good. But it was really life-changing anyway, in a positive way, because I'd never been out of the United States. I had been growing up in Indiana, in a medium small town, and so to be dropped into Japan in the late 70s, and also like dropped into, I mean, my parents were like, "Here's school."
Wow.
Everybody was Japanese. Unsurprisingly, I didn't speak Japanese. I think my sensei spoke some English, but it was like an instant cultural immersion, and it was kind of life-changing in a modest way. So I always wanted to write about it, but I needed more oomph to make it a book.
When did you first learn about how ethnic Koreans living in Japan were treated after World War II?
Such a good question. I remember how I really got deep into it, which is an amazing scholar named Sonia Riang, who grew up as Zainichi and has done kind of amazing work writing about that community. And I remember encountering a book of hers. I think it was pretty straightforwardly titled Koreans in Japan, maybe. It might have been a little more elaborate, but I was already really interested in the relationship between the two countries because of the history of colonialism, Japan colonizing Korea. That was the Korea that my father grew up in. So I think having that pre-existing interest and then realizing that there had been ethnic Koreans in Japan during the colonial period, not just Koreans in Korea dealing with Japanese, was really surprising to me.
This book switches between perspectives each chapter. Was that always the case when you were writing it?
It was always the case when I was writing it because it was the only way I could figure out how to write, but I didn't have a real plan for the book, if that makes sense. I was trying to write about these people, and I found that I could only write about one at a time. That was happening. It wasn't really an intention, but I would write about things from Louisa's point of view that would become stultifying or frustrating. I would write about things from her mom's point of view. Eventually, I was like, oh, I guess I should get into Dad's head too. So it just kind of, I kept accumulating these perspectives, but for a long time, I didn't realize the book would alternate between them. And then you sort of work with what you have. Then I had like a bunch of alternate perspectives, and I was like, I'm going to use them all.
Whose voice came to you first?
Louisa's came first, yeah. But Anne, her mother, was a close second because one of the first, I don't think this is a spoiler for people who haven't read, but for those of you who have read, one of the first scenes I remember writing was this scene where the mother and daughter go strawberry picking, and things happen that they don't expect. In addition to the picking of strawberries, there are other sort of more disturbing events that take place. And I had written that scene from Louisa's point of view, but what's going on with her mother is really important, and I wanted to go into her mother's point of view, and ultimately that's where we get it in the book. We get it from Anne, not from Louisa. Louisa got cut for time.
Let's talk about each character. Cirque. He has 3 names in his life. There's this Japanese name, Hiroshi. I listened to the audio. First, I read your book when it first came out, and then I listened to the audio book the past 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
And it's so great because the little kids yell, Hiroshi, Hiroshi for him. But then he discovers his Korean name, Seok, and then he goes by Cirque as an adult. Which of these names feels the most real for him?
For him, oh gosh, I don't know. We'd have to ask him. I think that's a really hard question for me to answer. I'm gonna have to take a wild guess and say that I feel like his third and final name, Cirque, which is not a Korean sounding name at all, but it's a name that is for ease of pronunciation by English speakers. I think that that's the most real name. It represents the person he wants to be. He really wants to remake himself as an American. And I don't know, maybe I'm projecting a little bit. My name is Susan Choi. Choi is not how my name is said in Korea at all. But a decision was made, way ahead of my coming along that name would be said in a way that is easier for English speakers to handle. And so I think there's something about that self-erasure and accommodation that, Cirque does that to himself and sort of wills himself into this different form.
The name Cirque, it has a tone to it. How do you say your name? How would your name normally be pronounced?
I'm not a native Korean speaker, so I can't do it. I really can't.
Really?
And there might be someone in the room who could do it better, but it's much more of a more of a ch than a choi. It's not choi rhymes with boy. It's ch. But again, like now we'll get all the emails from people who actually speak Korean. I know. I can't do it.
How does Cirque's otherness affect him as an adult?
I think it is the reason that he's so secretive. For one thing, he does not share. He almost shares nothing with the people closest to him. There are no people closest to him actually, because he won't let anybody get close. And so I think it's that sort of, I don't know, mirroring or reversal. He's always this strange quantity to everyone, and so he kind of makes them the same. There's always this distance or separation. And I think I saw that a lot. I mean, my father has a totally different biography than Cirque does, but he always sort of had this sense of the one and only in a way that, he was very singular all his life, even though he made a home and a life for himself in this country and had many connections, many friends, students, but there was always some sort of solitary quality that still kind of lingered, like an aura.
Let's talk about Anne. What characteristics did you want Anne to have?
I think one of the main things that I wanted Anne to be was somebody who was so interested in being different that she would kind of go headlong into something without stopping to think about it. And she goes headlong into this marriage with someone that she really doesn't know very well or understand. She feels this, there is this, true connection, this kind of spark between them. But it kind of turns out to be the spark between people who want to escape themselves and maybe want to escape into somebody else. Mm-hmm. And then once they get there, it's hard because, the movement's over, they're now together. And I think I wanted her to be somebody who would kind of act first, think later. And then, the later comes in her marriage where she's kind of lost.
Yeah, Anne and Cirque have a difficult, at times, marriage. But does she ever consider leaving him?
I don't think she does. There's a separate question, which is if I had thought she did, would I have chosen to write about it or kind of leave it off the page? Because that's the weird thing in books. Like there are things that I think about the characters, but then you're like, well, I don't think I'm going to represent this for the audience, the readers. And then there's other things that you maybe never discover fully. And I don't think she had gotten that far when their marriage is ruptured by other means. I think she was still too in it and kind of in the struggle to really imagine, like, could I totally change my life and just walk away?
It's interesting you mentioned that Cirque was so secretive. He never tells Anne or Louisa that he has a family and a sister in North Korea. Why does he keep that to himself? Why doesn't he share that with the two people he should be closest with?
This is something I thought about a lot, because the fact that his family goes to North Korea not really knowing what they're going to find, they're bamboozled, I think, is our English term for what happens to them. is so, I think it's so frightening and frightful because not just is, North Korea, even then, this kind of black box where, what goes in doesn't come out. We don't know what's happening there. It turns out to be, you know, a, a truly shocking sort of an abusive state. But also, you have to remember, and it's something that I had to remember all the time, that the incredibly palpable aura of anti-communism just pervaded so much. And I kept thinking about even stories my father would tell me about being a college student in this country and getting pulled off a Greyhound bus and dragged into a back room for questioning because he looked Chinese, and Chinese people are probably communists, and we'd better check this thing out. Like, he was just taking a bus. That happened to my father in like the late 1950s. So I think I was thinking all the time about Sirk's fear that this situation where his family go off to North Korea and now suddenly they've kind of vanished into a communist country. What's that going to look like for him as an American? He's terrified that anyone will learn, and then it's like a stain. So he keeps it a secret.
The family moves to Japan. Anne has ailments. She sometimes thinks that it's in her head that she has these ailments, but we ultimately find out that she has MS. Why doesn't Anne do anything about her illness initially?
I think she really does think it's all in her head.
Yeah.
The experience of being in a completely unfamiliar culture really paralyzes her in all these ways. And she's a pretty, one of the things that I really like about Anne is she's kind of capable. She doesn't really care what people think. She's very independent minded. She sort of, goes off and marries this Asian guy that she's not even sure like what country he comes from. But when her body starts doing crazy things, haywire things, she really, because it's happening at the same time as she's immersed in this culture that has kind of actually paralyzed her emotionally, she thinks she's experiencing kind of a bodily version of that paralysis. Like she, I don't know.
I wanted her to tell someone.
I know.
I really did.
I know, and she does eventually, but not before her life is upended anyway.
She has a very sort of happy relationship in the middle of the book with this fellow named Walt.
Walt.
Yes. He seems a
Love
little
that
bit
guy.
awkward. He seems like such a nice guy. He's quite loving towards her. What does Walt do for Anne?
Walt just likes her, kind of at first sight. And I loved that about him. She, at the point in her life when she encounters him, her MS has really advanced to the point that her daily life is extremely compromised, right? And she's fiercely independent, and she is, like still driving, but she can't really walk. She's using crutches. She can't really carry. She's this kind of spectacle of stubborn independence. And when they first meet, you get this sense that, well, you get it. You don't get a sense. You're told, because Walt sort of responds to it. He's been watching her for a little while. They share an apartment complex, and he's sort of been watching this woman going, what's happening here? But whatever it is, he kind of likes it. He's a little afraid of it, but he's just drawn to this stubbornly independent person, I think, because she realizes that she's noticed him too, and he's always alone. They've both always been alone in each other's sort of peripheral vision.
His house is full of books. Why did you make his house just full of books?
Like you can't even move. Yeah, I loved all of the books in Walt's house. And I won't deny that this detail is, lovingly borrowed from someone I once knew who was so passionately autodidactic about mostly U.S. history, but really many, many, many subjects, that their living room had just been given over to bookshelves perpendicular to the wall, because if you don't put your bookshelves against the wall, you can fit a lot more in. And so it also just fills up the whole room. You can't move or walk very easily, but you can store more books.
Let's move on to Louisa. When we first meet Louisa, it's with her father on the beach, and then she's in a psychiatrist's office. And I believe this was the story that you wrote for the New Yorker, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Why did you want to introduce that character this way? We could have met her later on in the story, but we meet her first. She's the first one.
Yeah. And you're giving me more credit for advanced planning than I really deserve. When that story ran in the New Yorker, which and then it becomes essentially like the prologue of this book, I was already struggling with this book. I was trying to write these characters, this story. I could not, it was just like I was in a room full of stuff where I was like, I don't know. It was like I was in that room of Walt's with all the bookcases. I had a lot of material already, but I could not organize it or find a path. And that story in the New Yorker took form as kind of almost a carve out of stuff that I was trying to make sense. Even after it existed, I still wasn't sure that's where the book would start. And I had another starting point that was when they arrive in Japan. But the thing that those two possible starts had in common were they were Louisa in both cases. And I think I always envisioned this book as somehow being a book that you would enter through her. And it may be as simple as I've already mentioned, this childhood experience of cultural dislocation and kind of like immersion in a dream world of Japan, and that desire to get back there was so big in me that I think it just didn't occur to me to enter into that world through anybody's eyes but hers. And then once I got there, I was like, okay, what else is here that matters?
People have very strong feelings about Louisa.
I know. I know they do.
What have you heard from readers about Louisa?
When I first published that story, I did a reading at American University, and afterwards in the Q&A, it emerged that I was working on a novel, and one of the students said, "So you mean a whole novel about Louisa?" And I said, "Well, there will be other things." And then the student went on to say, "Do we stay with her a long time? Does she like grow up?" And I said, "Yeah." And the student goes, "What a nightmare." And I was like, it might be. But I was sort of tickled, I guess. And then, my own mother said, "Is this bragging?" My mom said, "You weren't obnoxious like that." Maybe that is bragging a little bit, but I was relieved.
What did you want to explore through a character like Louisa?
I mean, I think the key fact about her, she is independent, prickly, too smart for her own good. She's really her father's child in a lot of ways. And I was interested in this difficult small family dynamic in which the mother and the father already aren't sure how to talk to each other anymore. And then the child really seems to take after the father, have lots of loyalty to him, and a lot of kind of prickly push away toward her mom. But then you drop a bomb in the middle of this little group. And so it was also about how does this child who really is already not very lovey-dovey is the technical term I'm going to use. How is this child going to recover from this monstrously traumatic event? Is she going to draw herself closer to other people and open up? Or is she going to, hunker down further away and close up? And I was like, well, of course she's going to do the second thing.
Yeah.
She's not going to know how to heal herself.
Tobias. Let's talk about Tobias. Anne gets pregnant young. She has a son who's raised by his father and his family. He comes back into Anne's life as a teenager and then as a young adult. Why did you want to include a son into this relationship, into this story? You talked about this little family unit, and then here comes the son.
Here comes the son. Kind of That's a good pun, Allison. But kind of literally because he's sort of a sunny presence, which I didn't initially realize he would be. But then as soon as that started becoming clear, I was like, oh, we need this guy. Initially, I have to say characters sort of reveal themselves in an incremental way, at least to me. And so sometimes I'll admit, you'd never admit this about a real person in your life, but sometimes with characters, you're being a little pragmatic or sort of a little manipulative about them. Like I brought him in that strawberry picking scene because he was a secret that Louisa's mother has kept from her. So that was his meaning. He wasn't really a person to me yet in my mind. He was just this secret. But once he got into the book, he just kept like mushrooms. He just kept popping up, and his character kept being more and more important and kind of irresistible. And I think I was writing more of him before I understood how much the book needed somebody like him, somebody who really does want connection and love and who's really forgiving. He doesn't turn up and kind of reprimand Anne for not having been part of his life all these years. Like she's expecting that.
Yeah.
He just turns up with like unconditional love for her.
He looks a lot like her, which is a big part of the book. And Louisa is biracial. How does this affect the story?
Well, it drops a big wedge between Louisa and this brand new brother that she didn't know existed from the very start. And I think that it was really interesting for me as a writer to have this way through these characters of writing about these issues of not looking like, whoever it is, not looking like a parent, not looking like everybody else, feeling as if you're kind of wearing this conspicuousness all the time. And these were definitely, my childhood is an origin for some of this stuff. Yeah. And so I think Tobias ends up being this sort of concrete person, a way for me to write about Louisa's really complicated feelings about being biracial, about being a brown person who, idolizes like blonde actresses when she's a little girl and internalizes this sense of like, oh, I'm not pretty, and instead of it being all abstract and theoretical, it kind of is around this person who's now suddenly her brother.
We're going to go to questions in just a few minutes, so get them ready. The novel spans decades. It jumps around through time quite a bit. How did you decide how big to make the time jumps?
Ooh, I thought you were going to say, how did I decide how big to make the book? Because I didn't. It got so big. I was like, no, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean for it to be this big. I wickedly love big disorienting time jumps. I just really like them. I really like encountering them as a reader. And I'm always like, ooh, where are we? What happened? What? She's married / divorced / she's a movie star now. Like, I just enjoy this. I've always admired writers who do it. And so I have this like mischievous urge to do it. And I think as this book was unfolding and sprawling a little bit, I started having some fun with it, where I thought like, well, I kind of want to bring this book into the 21st century, and I'm just going to do that by like leapfrogging over, these big stretches of time and kind of surprising the reader with where the characters have wound up.
There are secrets in the book. How did you think about your pacing of the novel? When to reveal certain things?
The biggest secret of the book, which is the fate of Cirque. These are the things you should never admit in front of readers. I did not plan for that to be a secret from the reader at all. I thought that the fate of Cirque would be a secret from his daughter and his wife, his family. But I thought that the reader would know. And so the suspense would be you would know where he was, but they wouldn't know. And so you'd be thinking, oh my God, when are they going to find out? But the book kept this gesture that I'm making for listeners, a helpless gesture of the hands, which means it just kept getting larger and going in directions I didn't expect. So it kept doing that. Oh. And internally, events that I had thought would happen kind of early in the book kept migrating further and further toward
Oh.
the back of the book, so that there ends up being a big secret from the reader too. And
That's so
and that
interesting.
sort of evolved all by itself. I mean, it was noticed before the book went to press. Like, my editor and I both noticed this had happened, and we were like, huh, that's interesting. Didn't realize that was going to happen, but we, thought that maybe it was a good evolution.
Let's go to the audience for questions. Who's got a question for Susan Choi? We've got somebody over here and right there. Yeah, we go right back here.
Oh, hi. It's wonderful to hear you talking about this, and love the book. We shared it with our book group. And I had a question. Did you feel, as Louisa did, othered growing up in the United States?
I did. Yeah, I did quite often. It was cathartic is too big of a word. That's a big word, but it was nice to write about that feeling, because I did feel it when I was a young kid, mostly before I left the Midwest and moved to a much larger, more urbane, more diverse city. And so I hadn't thought about those feelings in a while. It was nice to kind of remember the loneliness of it. It was a lonely feeling to often have people saying, what are you? Where'd you come from?
I think we had a question right there. Oh, hold on 1 second. There you go.
Thank you. Oh, okay. It's the secret thing, and I recall that Cirque didn't know his wife was dead, and Tobias came in and said that was good because everything is good for Tobias, but also it would be less painful for Cirque to think of his wife as alive. There were all these, so I think that in that way I felt like some of the secrets resolve themselves, or just the questions about them resolve themselves. But Cirque never knew about Tobias, I think. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting something, but to me that's big. Did you, I mean, how did that come about? Or because something's got resolved, with Tobias's happy outlook, but this is one that involved Tobias, and that's hanging.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you mention that, because there are sort of cutting room floor moments of this big book that, if they had been included, would have made it even bigger. And there are moments that explore Cirque's reaction to this information. And in the end, it really came down to, believe it or not, even though this is the longest book I've ever published, it did get quite streamlined. And so there were certain decisions that just had to do with trying to streamline the story. And I'll add that also I was interested in the way in which, festering problems in a family, you kick the can down the road thinking, oh, we'll deal with that later. But then this family get blown apart, and they never have the chance to sort of sort that stuff out. Who knows if they would have?
I think the woman in pink back there.
Thank you. I thought that the way that you used chronic illnesses in the book was really well done, both the MS and then also dementia. And I feel like it's quite difficult to use chronic illnesses like those as a plot point without getting icky, but I think you did it amazingly. How did you think about making them realistic and drive the plot in a way that wouldn't make people feel sad in a bad way?
It's a really good question.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I think that like a lot of things, it was something that I tried, and then I felt like maybe it was working. There wasn't a series of sort of decisions I made about how to depict MS, so much as I realized I really wanted to write about it. And I wrote about it a lot. Actually, that Anne Walt chapter, in which we, encounter Anne many years later, sort of like hunkered down in this illness and kind of having figured out how to live with it. That chapter was so long originally because I got there and I found it so, again, I don't want to use the word cathartic, it's too big, but I found it so helpful to write that reality. My mother has MS, and she's had it since I was very young. And so I've grown up with her, beside her, watching her, and was always really scared to write about this. I didn't want to get it wrong. But once I started doing that, writing about it, it felt so good to be seeing it through my writing, if that makes any sense. Such that the chapter in question was much longer than the one you encounter. And I think that then it was sort of a question of like, how will readers respond to this? Not, I'm going to do it in a certain way and it'll work, but I'm going to do it and see how it lands. And dementia, it was very similar approach.
Got to go over here.
Yeah. Hi. So, what was interesting, one of the things that was interesting to the book for me was that there's not a ton of resolution, in relationships and to each other between the family members, as you were discussing, and even internally of kind of finding yourself. And so I was curious if that was an intentional plan that you had, and kind of what drove that decision and outcome.
I'm smiling because it's so interesting. I think resolution is so important for all of us, and it's so subjective what constitutes resolution. And the reason I was sort of giggling is I feel like this book is like so heavy with resolution, and maybe that says something about me, and I worried when I finished the first draft of this book. I thought, oh my God, is it too sentimental? Is there too much resolution? Like, our readers going to be like, oh, come on, so they're reunited? That's just a big staged resolution. So I guess I would answer your question by saying that I felt like, given the ruptures in the book and the distances that people are driven apart from each other, I felt like there was a lot of resolution, I guess. But I can understand that not all readers recognize it the way I might recognize it. And one tiny example is, another reader said like, oh, I really wish Louisa and Anne had like arrived at a more reconciled relationship. And I was like, but they have that phone call where Louisa tells her to drink a glass of water. I was like, that's the resolution. She's expressing love. So maybe these things are a little subtle sometimes.
I think we have time for one more question, and I'll let in the back.
Hi, it was such a magnificent book. I have to ask if you're working on something new, and hopefully the answer is yes.
Well, I want to keep hope alive. So I'll say, work takes many forms. I would say that I'm doing the kind of work on something new that is all here. I'm just trying to find it. I'm not really actively, I wish I was that writer who was like, oh yeah, I'm 70 pages into the new thing, you'll see it in 24 months. I've just never been like that. I wish I could be. It would save me so much angst. But I do have thoughts.
What do you do with the
I
thoughts?
hope they lead to pages.
What do you do with the thoughts? Do you jot them down? Do you just let them ruminate up there?
I tried different jotting systems and none of them really work. I tend to lose the jottings, or like I start a notebook and then where's the notebook? So I tend to just walk around with it for quite a while.
Oh, that makes me feel so much better.
Yeah. Oh yeah, are you one of those too? No system. There's no system at all for the thoughts.
Did you know what the ending of this book was going to be when you sat down to write it?
No, I had no idea. I didn't know if they would find each other again. I didn't know if he would be alive at the end or if he would not be alive at the end. I really, I had no idea. But I knew that I wanted to try to bring them together again. And I knew that realistically speaking, given the situation I had created, that it would take time, a lot of time. I mean, that's why I think I wanted to bring the book into the 21st century. I was like, I want to win them enough time to find each other somehow.
Susan Choi, thank you for being our Get Lit with All of It author.
Thank you.
Susan
for
Choi.
having me. Thanks.
It has been a big year for Sarah Kinsley. Sarah Kinsley is a New York-based singer, songwriter, and producer who just wrapped up a national tour with a couple of secret dates here in New York City. Her album is titled Escaper, and The Guardian said she is one to watch. You can do that right now as she comes to the stage to perform an unreleased song. Please welcome Sarah.
Hello. Hi, everybody. That was super awesome for me to listen to all the way at the back. I don't usually perform at book events, so this is new for me. But I hope you're all doing well. Yeah, a lot of that conversation really resonated with me. I'm not a writer, I'm a songwriter, but it's very different, I think. And it's very interesting to hear about the process of an entire book. But anyways, my name is Sarah. Thanks for being here. Thanks for having me. I'm gonna play a new song. I always wonder, like, how much to divulge into about a song or how much to say. I think I don't know. I'm clearly conflicted about it, but I kind of want people to take away whatever they want to, and then I also want the message to be clear. But maybe I'll talk about it after. I have free will. I can just do that. Can you hear the guitar okay? Is it too quiet? That's good. Are the people back there going to be mad at me if I turn it a little louder? Okay. This song is called Reverie. Hold back when you fantasize. You might go too far and build a life you can't step away from. Imagination is a sacred drug. In my dreams we are paralyzed. We keep getting stuck at a red light, and we talk like there's no goodbye. Forever with you is a day and night. And I know now not to go past the borderline. I leave the make-believe behind. Just a reverie, a little piece of me. But never mind, my love for you is at the start and the end of time. Hold back when you're in my mind. You can't keep showing up every single night. I try not to start a fight. It's an illusion, but it holds me right. Once you start feeding into the light, you'll believe anything to pass the time. And I don't wanna hurt you tonight, but I wake up wishing for a different life. just to stay down, to keep myself alive. I leave the fantasy behind, just a reverie taking over me. So I let it die. My love for you is at the start and the end of And the funny thing is I couldn't stop it. Had a feeling it would end back in August. How could I pretend that you don't want me? How could I believe what you told me? And the truth is there was no less potential. You were a scapegoat for my life to unravel. It's just a dream, don't you get it? It's all a dream, just forget it.
Hi, do you want to stay there or you want to come over?
I can come over there.
Come on
yeah.
over. Yes, you're allowed. Life has changed so much for you. You graduated from Columbia
I did,
in
yeah.
2022. You released your debut album. You've been on tour. When you think about what the past few years have been like, what's changed the most and what stayed the same?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's really strange. I think that my career as a musician began when I was like 20, and I'm 25 now, and there's just a lot that happens in those years. I think at the beginning it was really overwhelming. It's strange to be a musician now. I think I guess it always has been, but it's even weirder now. But I don't know. I think my life has become a lot more grounded. I tour a lot more. There's an understanding I have with the person I am here in New York, and then the person I am when I leave. So that's clear, I think.
You heard us talking to Susan about writing a book. What was interesting to you as someone who writes songs?
I mean, I think the process just it sounds very similar in many ways, but also like completely different. I think the arc of a character is not, that different than building the life of a song. I think that songs are wonderful in the sense that you can just pour so much into them in the same way you do for a character. But it almost feels like authors and writers, you can maybe have a bit more leeway with saying what's fiction. And I think when you're a songwriter, it's pretty obvious most of the time what you're writing about, unless you're, like my favorite band of all time is like the Cocteau Twins, and they don't say anything. So, you don't even know what they're talking about most of the time. So I think that it feels maybe a little bit more vulnerable, but they're also both equally vulnerable, I think, in the same way too.
One of the characters in the book has to move around a lot. She moves to Japan, and you moved around a lot as a little kid. Tell us all the different places you lived.
Oh yeah, thank you, Dad. Yeah, I was born in California, and then when I was about, I guess, 5 months old, we moved to Switzerland for my dad's job. Don't remember that at all. And then I spent most of my life in Connecticut in a town called Branford, which is pretty boring and really classic suburban life. And then I moved to Singapore when I was 10. I was there for a little bit. So I kind of I guess I consider myself from both of those places, but I really spent about 7 years of my life, 7 or 5 years in both. And then I came back to a different town in Connecticut, and now I live here. So,
You've been around. Um,
yeah.
In the book, it's mentioned that one of the characters grew up with classical music in the household, and sometimes you were called a classically trained musician. Do you like that, or is that too much of a box to put you into?
Oh, no, it's fact. It's just true. I think if you called me a classical musician now, it would be maybe like an insult to classical music, and also maybe to me, because it's not maybe accurate now. But yeah, I spent like the first 15 years of my life playing in orchestras and playing piano, and it was sort of classic Chinese American upbringing. But I loved it, and I still do. I listen to it a bunch still.
Ooh, who do you like to listen to?
I was talking about this yesterday because of the Spotify like thing that wraps up what you've been listening to. But my number 2 artist was Maurice Ravel, who's like my favorite composer. I love him. I love Chopin and Debussy. So yeah.
I like Debussy.
Yeah, pretty good stuff. Yeah.
So when did you decide to branch off into pop and synth?
Yeah, I got really tired of classical music by the end. I found it really beautiful and fulfilling, and I was really grateful to be introduced to music that way, because it had nothing to do with language. Like, there's no lyrics in that kind of music, so you fall in love with melodies and you fall in love with sounds. And then I went to college, and when I was in high school, I started listening to a lot of different stuff. And I was tired of restrictions. I think music theory was something I studied a lot of in college, and it was tough because sometimes I'd say, God, I love how this sounds. My teachers would be like, yeah, but that's wrong. Like, it's just not what I'm looking for. And I don't know. I think I was in New York for the first time. I was listening to, people in my class were playing jazz. People were going to shows. People were having shows in basements, and I was learning how to play guitar. So it just kind of all, I think, it just led me down that path instead.
You just got off tour, but you had a couple of secret shows in New York at Baby's All Right. What was it like to wrap up your shows in that space?
Oh, it was very beautiful. I went to so many shows at Baby's when I moved here about 7 years ago, and yeah, we did these 2 sort of really intimate nights. I played a bunch of new music, and it was fun. I think that I love them so much because I, like a lot of other people, just crave music that's real and in front of you. And I think there's nothing like live music, and the internet makes me feel sometimes very detached from myself and from other people, and getting to introduce new music that has never existed digitally yet, in this setting was really cathartic for me.
You've got another tour scheduled, yes?
Yes.
Tickets go on sale tomorrow for anybody who wants to go. Tell us what our next song we're going to hear from you is.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna play 2 more songs. I'm gonna play a song called "The Giver," which is a ballad I wrote a few years ago now, and then I'm gonna play you a song called "The King," which is kind of the song that began my whole career. So,
Sarah Kinsley.
thank you. Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna tune my guitar because that last song sounded kind of weird, if you don't mind. The next song I'm gonna play is called "The Giver." This is like it's a fun song for me to play because it's kind of objectively like from what I've heard from other people, the saddest song in my discography, and I don't know. I think I connect with it so much because it represents a lot of feelings that I don't hold anymore. So playing it is, yeah, it's like a weird form of time travel to go back into that mindset. But yeah, I don't know. It's been there for me at some very interesting moments of my life. But this is a song called "The Giver." The last song I'm going to play for you today. Thank you for being here also. This is really sweet. I'm usually playing in a really hot room, and it's really sweaty and kind of gross, but really fun also. But yeah, it's lovely to play something a little bit more intimate. So thank you for being here. I'm going to play a song called The King, which is kind of the song that took off when I was 20. And yeah, it's been a very unexpected journey since then. But yeah, the internet is a crazy place, as we know. Yeah, I released a song, and yeah, what to say about this song? I wrote this song. I used to do this thing, which I still do, and I would highly recommend it if you've never done it before. But before every birthday, I would write a letter to myself to open the next year's birthday. And when I was 19, about to turn 20, I was terrified of getting older. I still am. And I wrote down this wish. I really wanted to make a song that would pay homage to what it felt like to be a teenager, and to just feel so free and feel like you could do anything if you could, put your mind to it. And this song was like an encapsulation of that wish and of that dream. So it brings me back to a very special time, I think, in my life. But this is a song called The King. Machine to see again, to hear your phone call, your voice down the hall, the way we were back then. We were dancing in the rain, our feet on the pavement. You said I was your second take. Exactly what you meant. So tell me before we get older, let's do everything. You're scared of when it's over. You're still young and you're still free. Tell me before we get older, let's do everything. You're scared of when it's over. You're still young and you're still free. Thank you so much.
Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. Susan, thank you so much for joining us as well. And thanks to everybody for joining us here at our partners at the New York Public Library. Thanks to everybody from Park Boulevard for making it look so nice. And thanks to WNYC's producer. And that's it for Get Lit for 2025. We'll see you back here in January. Have a good holiday, everybody.